Good morning, students. We've been looking in this chapter of Bhakti Sufi traditions that yes, we started our Indian society started with a complete Vedic society. Then we graduated into Purans, which kind of slightly diluted the strictness of Vedas. And from there, by 11th century, we had foreigners from the Arabic world and the Turkish lands who started pouring into India and started making India their home. So naturally, they brought in their own faith and their religious systems and their customs and traditions and transformed the Indian society. The growth of Sufism, that is what we would be starting today. In the early centuries of Islam, a group of religious-minded people called Sufis turned to asceticism and mysticism in protest against the growing materialism of the caliphate as a religious and political institution. They were critical of the dogmatic definitions and scholastic methods of interpreting the Quran and Sunnah traditions of the Prophet adopted by the theologians. Instead, they laid emphasis on seeking salvation through intense devotion and love for God by following his commands and by following an example of Prophet Muhammad, whom they regarded as a perfect human being. The Sufis thus sought an interpretation of the Quran on the basis of their personal experience. Now, you have to understand that students, you must have studied it, and you did study it in class 11 about the caliphate and all the killing and slaughtering and butchery that happened in the name of Islam. Okay, because different caliphates wanted to assert their power and authority in different geographies, whether it was in Syria, Damascus, in Baghdad, Abbasid, um, Umayyad families, and all of them fighting each other for this. And now the ulema had become very important, whereby they had started acting as the intermediaries between God, that is Allah, and His followers. And because of this, there was a growth of Sufism, or a certain set of people and a certain set of mystics who said that yes, you do not have to worry about the bureaucracy of Islam. You can directly reach Allah through your devotion and through prayers. So this is what it is about: the Khankas and the Silsilas. By 11th century, Sufism evolved into a well-developed movement with a body of literature on Quranic studies and Sufi practices. Institutionally, the Sufis began to organize communities around the hospice or Khankah, Persian, controlled by a teaching master known as Sheikh in Arabic, Pir or Murshid in Persian. He enrolled disciples, murids, and appointed a successor Khalifa. He established rules for spiritual conduct and interaction between inmates as well as between lay people and the master. Sufi silsilas began to crystallize in different parts of the Islamic world around 12th century. Now you can very well understand that this was becoming a very widespread movement where for almost 500 years the followers, that is the Muslims, were tired of this power struggle and all that killing and butchery. They wanted something actually which was spiritual, which talked about God, which showed them the right path. So the Sufism and the great Sufi masters became very, very popular and had hundreds and thousands of followers. When the Sheikh died, his tomb shrine, that is Dargah, a Persian term meaning court, became the center of devotion for his followers. Yeah, this encouraged the practice of pilgrimage or ziyarat to his grave, particularly on the death anniversary or urs, that is, or marriage, signifying the union of his soul with God. This was because people believed that in death saints were united with God and were thus closer to Him than when living. People sought their blessings to attain material and spiritual benefits, thus evolved the cult of the Sheikh, revered as Wali. Students, you have to understand that uh, India has some very, very prominent dargahs. One in Ajmer Sharif, of course, Hazrat Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti Sahib. and then in Delhi, Nizamuddin Aulia Sahib, then in Bombay, again, the Haji Ali Dargah. These are some of the very prominent dargahs which are there in India and which are world famous. It's not that Muslims from India throng to this place, and a lot of Hindus, of course, and you would see also people from other faiths visiting these dargahs because they are considered to be very secular kind of places. It is not about Muslims and it is not about Hindus at all, because they are considered to be if I may put it in Hindi, khuda ke bande, and because they are considered to be above their religious affiliations and religious loyalties. So the whole society reveres them and respects them, and they visit the dargah of these great saints. Uh, Outside the Khanqa, some mystics initiated movements based on the radical interpretation of Sufi ideals. Many scorned the Khanqas and took to mendicity and observed celibacy. They ignored rituals and observed extreme form of asceticism. They were known by different names: Kalandars, Madaris, Malangs, Haidaris, because of their deliberate defiance of the Sharia. They were often referred to as Be-Sharia, in contrast to the Besharia Sufis who complied with it. Students, you have to understand, this was a similar kind of rebel movement within Islam. You can actually call it a rebel movement because they were not at all considering Sharia to be important. The Sharia, which is considered by the purists, to be the one which should conduct the life of a Muslim. Your behavior, of how you conduct your social affairs, everything should be guided by by the Sharia law. And the Sufis didn't care about Sharia. They just felt that they can they can just have their own unrestricted access to Allah, and they did not need all this Islamic bureaucracy which wanted to determine and guide each and every affair of the Islamic life. The Chistis in the subcontinent, uh, of the groups of Sufis who migrated to India in the late 12th century, the Chistis were the most influential. This was because they adapted successfully to the local environment and adopted several features of Indian devotional traditions. Life in the Chisti Khanka. The Khanka was the center of social life. We know about Sheikh Nizamuddin's hospice, that is 14th century, on the banks of River Yamuna in Ghiaspur, which is in Delhi right now, on the outskirts of what was then the city of Delhi. It comprised several small rooms and a big hall, Jamaat Khana, where the inmates and visitors lived and prayed. The inmates included family members of the Sheikh, his attendants, and his disciples. The Sheikh lived in a small room on the roof of the hall where he met visitors in the morning and evening. A veranda surrounded the courtyard, and a boundary wall ran around the complex. On one occasion, fearing the Mongolian invasion, people from neighboring areas flocked into the Khanka to seek refuge because they would understand that they would not be attacked because they would be within the campus of this great saint. There was an open kitchen langar run on Futuh, that is unasked, for charity. From morning till late night, people from all walks of life, soldiers, slaves, singers, merchants, poets, travelers, rich and poor, Hindu yogis, and Kalandars came seeking discipleship, amulets for healing. Amulets would mean, students, ताबीज जिसको आप कहते हैं, amulets for healing, and the intercession of the Sheikh in various matters. Other visitors included poets such as Amir Hassan, Sazi, and Amir Khusro, and the court historian Ziauddin Barani, all of whom wrote about the Sheikh practices that were adopted, including bowing before the Sheikh, offering water to visitors, shaving the heads of the initiates, and yogic exercises represented attempts to assimilate local traditions and strengths. This was not at all, as you can see, the yogic exercises you just saw, and all the and the Sheikh, these great Sufi saints had followers from all walks of life, and a lot of Hindus were also the followers. So you can understand it was not about uh, Islam and Islam. It was just about the Almighty. It was not about Islam. It was about Allah, and they considered the only one master. They actually believed in it, that yes, God was one. You just call him by different names, but he was one, and anyone could have access to him. Anyone could approach him in the way he saw or she saw best. The the only thing that was needed was uncontaminated devotion and absolute determination to reach him and to feel that spiritualism, and that is what it mattered, and that is why these people became extremely popular wherever they went, wherever they had their gaddi, that is, wherever they used to sit, and wherever they used to go, they would have admirers and disciples in hundreds and thousands, because they were considered to be very holy, pious, and above all those religious affiliations that they would be only talking about Prophet Muhammad and that kind of stuff. They would be very open to embracing all the different practices, any practice which made reaching the Almighty simpler, they would be okay with it. And because of this liberalism and because of this flexibility, they became very popular. Uh, Chishti devotionalism, ziyarat, and Qawwali, we shall see tomorrow. Thank you.